What's up, heathens? How y'all doing? Today we're going to be going over this sort of anti-atheist classroom kind of video. I mean, it's a religious organization that is representing a straw man version of an atheist who confronts her students about this whole belief in God or Christianity or belief in Jesus, and is really derogatory towards. So I felt like it was important for me as an atheist to come out and make a few statements about not only the teacher, but also the arguments that these students throw at her. So if you're interested in this kind of video, please stay tuned. Before we get into the video today, heathens, I just wanted to let you guys know that there is a donation link down below if you would like to help out an organization called the Janine Geiger Crisis Center. It's for battered and abused women. If you would like to contribute to their current fundraising campaign, it is down there. So I've already donated a little bit of money. If you could donate a little bit and help them reach their goal, that would be awesome. All right, now I hope you enjoy the video, and I will see you after the show. Just before, I'm going to let this entire first part play out, because this entire first part takes a full fucking minute to set the scene. You don't need this much time in order to set up a classroom. We all fucking know what a classroom is. I like how the name of this group, Love Invasion, also sounds a bit rapey. I mean, it really does. Love Invasion. We're gonna come in and take our love by force. That's what God does. What's up, home slave? Yo, what up, bro? Patriarchy, patriarchy. Oh, look, more patriarchy. Patriarchy, patriarchy, patriarchy. He was studying patriarchy. Evolution.
I like to start out every school year by coming and standing face to face with the Christian worldview. So, at any time, if you feel like this class or this lecture is not for you, then please feel free to excuse yourself.
Okay, first off, why in the world is this like the topic that you first want to discuss with the class? Like, is this class like a comparative religion class? What kind of class are you teaching? The guy had an evolution book on his thing, on his desk. So is it a science class? If it's a science class, why you gotta attack a religion first day in? Like, why do you have to even mention religion? Why can't you just teach the freaking material? Why? If there is a professor or a teacher out there that immediately comes into classes like, now listen, I know this is a science class and we're going to be discussing biology here, but I just want to say, fuck all you Christians, okay? Fuck you and your God. Like, I would definitely get up out of that class and go and tell somebody, because that is definitely an ethical violation. There are recourses for teachers that do this. If there's a professor out there that is really coming up there and spewing some stuff that does not belong in the class, you need to tell somebody. But this right here is a straw man kind of atheist, because this straw man kind of atheist doesn't actually exist. There aren't atheist teachers out there in droves that are looking to attack religion first day on the job in a class about biology. That's not a thing that commonly happens. There might be minor instances of it in various places, but our community, the atheist community, is quick to shut that shit down.
Here's the declaration I would like to make. God is an illusion. The plan of salvation is a delusion. And Christianity, if you will, in my opinion, is lethally dangerous nonsense.
On some levels, I can agree with that, but on other levels, I mean, I still support the freedom of religion. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that just blanket statement, your religion or your implementation of a religion is harmful to other people, because I don't know how you implement your religion. If you're one of these faith-healing people, of course it does harm. If you're like a Southern Baptist that keeps to themselves, has a very private stance on their religion and everything like that. That's fine. Have that all you want to. I'm not going to come in there and try to rain on your parade, but the moment that you start in on me about how I'm dumb for not believing in God, or how evolution isn't real, and you're telling this to other people, I am going to stand up and use my voice to set you straight.
Science is our greatest body of knowledge, and its logic shows us with absolute clarity that belief in the Bible and its foundation of faith in Jesus is merely a person convincing himself to believe in something that does not exist. Christian, this is your reality exposed. Reality? No. Rather, Jesus is the most popular imaginary friend in all of human history.
If Jesus isn't real, then how could so many people be wrong?
Oh, the first fallacy. Just because a lot of people believe it doesn't make it a real thing. This is the bandwagon fallacy, or an argument ad populum. It's basically when you say, well, this view is popular, therefore that view is correct or true. And it's wrong to think that. It doesn't matter how many people don't believe in a God or do believe in a God. That's regardless of the fact that there's no evidence for a God.
There was once a time when everyone believed that the world was flat. And there was probably a time, darling, when even you believed in Santa Claus.
Okay, well, yeah, I would say that's a pretty good, if you live in America, in the United States, there's a good chance that you believed in Santa Claus at one time. That's a reasonable assumption. But the whole flat earth thing, like the flat earth theory was good until about the 6th or 3rd century BC. Back then, people were able to wise up to it and not be such a dipshit about it. But then you had this guy come in later on down the road, about the 17th, 18th century, something like that. He had a problem with astronomy at the time, and so he basically used the Bible to prove that the earth is still flat. You know, pointing out all of these things that were written back at the time when the common consensus among philosophers and just people in general was that the world was flat. They used those things in order to assert, oh, look, this was written by God, therefore the earth is flat. It's definitely related to a religion. But I also wouldn't throw that in the face of a student that's walking out of my class because I started out the semester being a complete asshole.
What changed that? Evolution of thinking and the truth.
Also, if you're in class and a teacher is doing this, don't fucking clap. That's just an asinine thing to do. Don't sit there and clap for the teacher berating the Christian student that's walking out of the class because the teacher's being an asshole to them specifically about their religion and what they believe in a class that it doesn't matter. Religion doesn't matter to the evolution discussion. Evolution is separate from religion.
Do you have something to say?
What would I do? I would probably raise my hand and be like, hey, Miss Teach, you're being a dipshit right now. Could you please stop and be a bit more ethical? Can we just start talking about evolution now?
Professor, what I'm about to say, I mean in the most sincere way possible. You're an atheist, correct?
Yes, I am.
Well then, I don't really understand your lecture. What I do understand is you, as an atheist, and everyone else in this room, is searching for God, even without knowing it.
No. Nobody is, like, atheists aren't actively searching for God. I would have to sincerely disagree with you because you're being just as much as an asshole as this woman is being right here. Because for you to blanketly paint everybody as searching for God, that's forcing your position on other people. That's just like what this woman is doing with her class. She's forcing her position on her students and saying, if you don't like it, then you can get out. That's a complete bullshit way to handle this. And no, just because someone doesn't believe in God doesn't mean that they're searching for God. That's fine if you want to believe in God. And I get that you feel attacked in this situation, but not everybody's searching for God.
If that isn't true and God doesn't exist, then my question to you would be, who are we arguing about?
Who are we arguing about? It's the character in the Bible named God. He's normally depicted with a white beard, white hair, and a real douchebag look on his face. It's that guy. He's a character. Jesus is a character in the book. You know, he's got all this hippie hair. He's white for some reason in the Middle East. Nobody fucking knows why he's white, other than the people that, created the recreations back in like the 15th, 16th century.
Because if you were to say God, then it would defeat the purpose of your lecture.
Well, I mean, the lecture in the first place doesn't have a place in a science class. It defeats itself right off the bat. It doesn't require her to say, oh, well, we're talking about God. You're defeated. Like, that's not how it works. You can talk about the character without believing in the character as being real.
I believe Christians have been deceived. God is a delusion. And as a result, Jesus has become the world's most popular imaginary friend.
Professor, whether you believe in the Bible or not, Jesus is not the world's most popular imaginary friend.
Well, currently I think that he is the most popular imaginary friend, although Allah and Muhammad are coming up close second, with, I think, Judaism probably behind them. Those are the big three. So, I mean, she's not wrong, but she's still an asshole.
History itself proves that Jesus Christ is the most influential person to ever walk the face of this earth.
Influential, yes, but if...
Well, no, I would disagree. I believe the movement of Christianity is influential. In the first century, there were several groups of Christians that were influential, but I don't think that there was a singular person that was influential that created the religion. If I had to peg it with anybody as being like the creator of it and the one that really pushed forward the current existing religion that's out there, the closest one that you could come to is Paul. That would be the first one that you could really point to. There's no evidence to suggest that Jesus actually walked the earth.
He is the Son of God, and if God is love, like all you Christians claim that he is, then why is there so much evil in the world?
All right, I think the whole evil thing is kind of a really bad argument to come at any Christian with. Mainly because in the Bible, in Isaiah 45 something, I can't remember exactly, but it's in Isaiah 45, God says that he creates both the light and the dark. Now, there's a couple ways in which you can interpret this particular passage. One way that you can interpret it is to mean that, oh, God creates evil and he creates good, and so he's responsible for both. The Christian dogma has explanations for evil contained within the Bible. You could also see it as like, well, God created good and there can't be good without evil, so as an incidental thing, evil was created. Either way that you talk about it, though, you still get that God is responsible for evil in some capacity.
I don't think that question disproves God's existence more than it actually proves it. Because if you say that there is evil, then I assume you believe there's good, correct?
Okay, we're about to get into a moral argument, I can already tell. Just because that we have these subjective standards of good and evil doesn't mean that God definitely exists. For him to say that her evil argument is proving God in some way is just as fallacious. And you really shouldn't use it, Christians. Could we stop using that?
Right.
And if there is good and evil, then there must be a moral law, the basis on which you can differentiate the two.
Well, yeah, that's called society. As a society, we agree on moral standards, and we change those moral standards. A good indication for this is the fact that Christianity always changes after society changes. Like, for instance, with slavery. Christianity, like the interpretation of the Bible as to how it pertains to slavery, didn't change until after we as a society deemed that slavery was a bad thing. And so we as a community, as a culture, as a society, have deemed that bad. Therefore, Christianity either had to wither away and die or change. And see, that's why Christianity has survived so long, is that it has that ability to change. It has that ability to reinterpret things to mean different things. Like, for instance, right now, there's a lot of Christians out there that think that slavery in the Bible is actually indentured servitude. This is wrong in every kind of aspect because, as we all know, in the Bible, it tells you exactly how to beat your slaves without causing them to die, and you won't get in trouble for it. Another thing that you can point to is women's rights, just how women are treated. It wasn't until we as a society changed that perspective that Christianity changed its perspective. You could say the same thing even further with civil rights in the African American community, the gay community, the homosexual, the LGBT community. You can point to all these things and see plain as day how Christianity has changed to better mix with society.
Sure.
And if there is a moral law, then there must be a moral lawgiver. But this is the person that you're trying to disprove.
Okay, just because we have a set of like moral laws or moral foundation does not mean that a higher power exists. That is just a non sequitur. One does not prove the other.
So if there is no moral lawgiver, there can be no moral law. If there is no moral law, there is no good. If there's no good, there's no evil. And if there's no evil, then what is your question?
I think the whole good and evil thing is just a perfect example of how morality is subjective. Morality is definitely subjective, and even within your own Christian movement, you can see, because even now there are different perspectives on the LGBT community out there in the Christian community. You have some people that think that it's a sin, and you should shun those that are part of the LGBT community, and then there are others that are more progressive that welcome those people. So even in your own community, you have these different sets of morals. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of fucking sense. I mean, I already believe in God, but that makes a lot of fucking sense.
How can you be so certain that there is a God? There is no absolute truth.
Well, see, this is where I might differ from other atheists out there. I think that there's an overarching kind of truth. Like, there is an overarching absolute truth. But see, we can't necessarily perceive that truth. Like, we are hindered by our own perception of reality as to what that absolute truth is. So what we have is this overarching absolute truth, but then we have the truth that we perceive. And, I think that those are two different levels, and I don't ever think that we'll ever get to the absolute truth. So it's a very nuanced position, but like there's an absolute truth, but we'll never get to that absolute truth.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you absolutely sure? Because if you were to say yes, that would be self-defeating. How can you say there's no absolute truth and yet at the same time be absolutely sure?
Actually, I think what he means is this.
Like, you can't be absolutely sure about there not being absolute truth or something like that. I really don't know who says that it's an absolute. I would not say that, I would not say anything absolute, because you have to leave room for being wrong. And even now, like, there might be times when I don't correctly, state what I think, because I'm never an absolute, 100% sure on anything. I mean, I could be wrong about the whole God thing. There could be a God out there that's twiddling his thumb saying, yeah, fuck John, I'm going to send him to hell, and he's going to get, horses shoved up his ass or something.
Not one person can have all the knowledge. Not one religion can have all the truth.
Is that not what Christianity says, is that they have the only truth? I mean, that's what every religion says, respective to its own dogma, that it's the only correct truth.
Saying that, do you realize you are claiming the very knowledge that you say no one can have?
Everything in this world is meaningless.
You don't.
That's the most emo nihilist that I've ever seen. There's no meaning in this world. Oh my God. Like, all the nihilists that I've met have never been so energized about being a nihilist.
I don't mean that.
Yes, I do.
I'm assuming what you're saying is meaningful. So how can everything be meaningless? If everything in life is meaningless, then what you just said means nothing.
I'm going to dub this the confused as fuck fallacy, because all it is a whole bunch of words that are strung together. Word salad. That's all that is. That's just word salad. I mean, he's just throwing out this circular logic there in order to confuse you. And I don't suggest falling into that particular trap.
You all do realize that it actually takes more faith to not believe in God than it does to believe in him.
All right, mini Frank Turek. It does not take more faith to believe in a God than, or to not believe in a God than to believe in a God. That's just ridiculous. I would say that it definitely takes more faith to believe in a God, in a specific God, mainly because atheists don't have faith at all. These atheists don't have faith in there not being a God. It obviously takes more faith to be a religious person.
How so? Well, who created the stars?
What? Well, who created the stars? You can't tell me who created the stars. Therefore, God created the stars. Okay, first of all, this is called begging the question, okay? He's begging the question because he's saying, who created the stars? Nobody fucking created the stars, buddy. Nobody did at all. Stars are created as a natural consequence of the universe. That's how they're created. Nobody had to create them.
Now you see, wouldn't it just be easier to say God?
Everything in existence is a cause of evolution or evolving. If not, how do you explain so many different types of races, nationalities, languages, and colors?
I think you're asking the wrong question, because what you're implying is that there are things within this universe that simply evolved from nothing, that they just...
Okay, you see, this is a common tactic. Instead of answering the actual question that you've been given, you instead answer a different question. And I feel like it's okay to say that, oh, well, this is what I think about this question, but I think it would be better to say this. Like, you could follow it up with your own, suggestion, but you should really answer the question that he asked.
Came into existence. That's like saying this pencil simply came into existence, which we all know is not true. There had to be something outside of this pencil in order for it to be created. The pencil cannot, in and of itself, explain its own origin.
All right, this is what Christians believe about the Big Bang.
Smoke weed every day.
Okay, so he's right in that pencil has to be made by somebody. This is just the, design argument. There has to be this great designer in the world in order for shit to be here. And it's really a myopic view, because what he totally disregards is the fact that we have natural processes that can create shit like plants, animals, stars, and galaxies, and all that kind of stuff. That is totally thrown out in his whole argument. They disregard it completely, and that's why they are wrong.
The pencil, we must conclude that there was a mind to think of it and that there were hands to create it. Just evolve or come into existence. Logically, the question then becomes not how did we get so many different types of pencils, shapes, sizes, and colors, but who created the pencil to begin with?
Okay, no, this is still begging the question yet again. You can't just keep on begging the question with who created it. There doesn't necessarily have to be a creator to create the fucking anything. There doesn't need to be a creator that created the stars.
That's good. You're saying that everything has to have a reason for existence. Someone created the pencil, someone created the fish, someone created the universe, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Then tell me, who created God?
Oh, snap, motherfuckers. What do you got to say about that?
There is no argument there. If God were a being, then it would need an explanation. The column cosmological argument is whatever begins must have a cause, because anything that comes into being must have a cause for its being. God is eternal and is not a being. And if God is not a being, then he doesn't need a cause.
This is a moving the goalpost fallacy, because basically he's been met with this whole thing about, well, who created God if everything needed a beginning? And what he then proceeds to do is say, well, God is actually outside time, space, and reality in general. Therefore, he didn't need to be created. He is not governed by that particular principle. And that's just a cop-out. I mean, it's not a good argument. It's fallacious. You can't just move God outside of reality and think that you've actually, answered the question.
Greater question is not who created God. It is, can eternity exist? And since you and I can't be absolutely sure, the only logical conclusion would be that eternity, at least, is possible.
Okay, but possible does not mean probable. While eternity, in theory, is possible to exist, that doesn't necessarily mean that it does exist. I would say that this is more of a God of the gaps kind of thing. They want to sit there and act like, just because there's a gap in our knowledge, that is where God resides. And, it opens up the possibilities to God existing. I don't think, I think that she is arguing that God just definitely doesn't exist, 100% sure God doesn't exist. I think that you can be 100% sure about, Yahweh and, Jesus. Jesus as in the, spiritual Jesus. I think that, you can be 100% on those because they have like the Bible in which describes their properties, and they don't meet up to those standards. They don't pass the rigorous test that you can put them through. But like a deity in general, I don't think that you can be 100% sure on.
Most people choose not to believe in the Christian faith, not because it was attempted and proven false, but rather because it was found convicting and never tried. Christians believe in God not because we believe him to be true, but also because of his unsearchable riches. I mean, think about it. Truth exceeds even the desires of the wisest men. If our greatest truth were as simple as logic, why do we marvel at new discoveries within our universe every day? Some of the wisest men in history have spent centuries searching for an end of our universe's information. While the search may have not given them everything they were looking for, it did enable them to find things that they were not looking for.
That entire spiel was another bit of the God of the gaps. Just because there's a gap in our knowledge does not mean that God exists there. I think that it's a good thing that we keep on searching for knowledge. I don't see that as a negative. That's actually a positive. If we ever stop searching for knowledge, then we're doing something wrong.
Here's the simple truth. The problem with most Americans is they can't fathom the need for a life full of miracles because they are so saturated in a culture that is dominated by materialism. The truth is, we don't reject Christ's existence. We have too much reliable evidence for that.
If you're so against materialism and you think materialism is such a net negative, right? Why are you in college? I don't understand this. People that think materialism is so bad, why are you in college? Why do you have a job? Why do you do any of these things? I mean, if you're an anti-materialismist, I guess, I would love to know why you are that. And why you are that, but you also own a cell phone and all this other things. I mean, I know that it's kind of part of our society. And, you're kind of an outcast if you're not at least somewhat a materialist. So if you're anti-materialist, why do you have those things? Why do you have cars? Why do you do any of that? I would say that Jesus, in the Bible, Jesus was definitely an anti-materialist, but you can tell that, pretty much he had shoes and a robe, and then he bummed off people. That's what he did. He walked around Galilee bumming, couches off of people. He would just sleep on someone's couch or out in the woods or something like that. He was truly an anti-materialist. That's exemplified when he tells the guy that wants to follow him, he's like, sell all your riches and then you can follow me. Or sell all your possessions and then you can follow me. I really just don't understand his whole perspective of anti-materialism while he's sitting in a college that either him or his parents paid for with money that they got from working because they are all materialists.
The truth is, we reject Christ because of his outrageous call for men to die.
His outrageous call for men to die? Did Jesus call for men to die? I don't think that Jesus called for men to die. I mean, his whole ministry was about how you can live again. I don't understand that bit.
Christ's objective is for us to put to death our own desires and become selfless so that we can save the broken. What need do we have to be like him if our only concern is for ourselves?
He also told people to sell all their shit if they want to follow him. So maybe you should consider dropping out of college. No, don't do that. I do not suggest you dropping out of college. Please stay in college. It's okay to be a materialist. I mean, everything in moderation. I mean, if you do anything too much, you're going to get bit in the ass with it. But I'm just saying, it's okay.
Examine yourselves. Reevaluate your belief systems. You just might see that the more someone tries to disprove facts, the more that it proves them true. The truth is, if there was no God, there would be no atheists. Just as if there were no objections, there would be no protesters.
If there was no God, then there would be no atheists, except for the fact that people think that a God exists, so obviously there's going to be atheists. Obviously there's going to be people that disagree with you. As long as people believe in a God, it doesn't matter if God actually exists. People can believe in things that don't really exist. Like, for instance, Santa Claus. There are plenty of kids right now that believe in Santa Claus. No amount of belief is going to make that particular Tinkerbell, rise up out of the grave. Because, Tinkerbell, you believe and you clap and everything. It's like, I believe. And then she comes back to life. Peter Pan. Am I the only one here that...
If you've never been to Saudi Arabia, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means you're one choice away from your own personal experience.
Okay, that'll be all.
I like how the teacher's like, okay, that'll be all. I stepped into a hornet's nest of Christians. Getting the fuck out of here. Y'all go home, read Evolutions 1:1 through 12:5. Class dismissed. You've only been 5 minutes in there. Why the fuck did you even start the class? Like, maybe you shouldn't have opened your mouth if you're not going to back up your shit. Uh-oh, the atheist is compromised in her faith in atheism. Oh my gosh, does it look like she's praying, fellers and gals? Honey, does it look like she's praying? It looks like she's praying. Oh, she's being born again. You fucking Christians, get the fuck out of here, fucking Christians. Love invasion. If you won't rape us, we'll rape you. Thank you, heathens, for making it to the end. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you will go down below and leave me a comment with which part of this video really resonated with you. Let me know what you liked and disliked about either my response or the video in general. While you're down there, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Don't forget to stand up and use your voice, and I will see you heathens later.